footage. VFX footage. VFX footage.
Yeah. All right. That's it. The views. The Views, your news and current affairs program on Freetown Television Network, is extended today as it's so special. You know, today is a special day for Sierra Leoneans. It is the 365th day of the SLPP government, 1 year of governance of the Sierra Leone People's Party. And I want to say thanks and praise to you, Mohamed Zikoba, for having a wonderful time on the program with your civil society activists. It was a very good one. Thanks to the technical team on the program for operating foot in hands, or hands in foot, hands in glove, to make sure that this program keep on live, keep on bringing information to our people in the four corners of Mama Salon and elsewhere around the world. Yes, today is 1 year. 1 year, that's 365 days of the Sierra Leone People's Party ruling and governance of this country. There are things to celebrate, there are disappointments, there are things that are in waiting, there are things that are in the pipeline, but we want to get the record straight, and we are going to see how things are unfolding, how things came to pass from where it started to where we are now. The 4th of April 2018 was the first official day of the Sierra Leone People's Party in governance, and we are there at Parliament building to witness the first speech, or let me say the first message of His Excellency to people of Sierra Leone. Well, things were said, promises were made, and of course Sierra Leoneans are yearning to see that some of these promises, some of these messages that we got from our hierarchies during those days, they are presently in action, or they are coming to reality. To help me deliberate on the issue of the 1 year stay in governance of the Sierra Leone People's Party, I have with me in the studio Kev Koba of Forward Sierra Leone. He's a civil society activist, and of course that name is a household name when you talk about the voice of the people of this country. Kev Koba, I want to welcome you to the program, The Views.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the patience. Thank you for having you on this program. Well, I'm so happy, and I believe that happiness will continue if the information that we need from you people concerning the 365 Leone People's Party, if it's going down well with my people out there, I will be more happy. How do you feel, dear brother?
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here also. Yeah. It's always a pleasure for me to talk to people. Yeah. I am one of the astute voices of the people, and I always speak truth to power, regardless of who is in authority. Yeah. I believe this country will only sail through when we continue to speak the hard truth to power and people in authority, because many of these things that happen, sometimes they are not really aware of the issues, either because those around them, or by default they tend not to be too concerned about the issues. Yeah. So they tend also not to be informed and to know. So but when we speak out on these issues without prejudice, without bias, without political connotation, then the leaders will be able to understand and to know that these are, and therefore we need to pay attention to it. This is an authority. Yes. I believe I owe it to this country as a Sierra Leonean, as a citizen, to play the voice of the voiceless majority of this country and to speak squarely on their interests and on their behalf. So hence I want to use this medium also to say congratulations to President Bio on his 1 year anniversary in power as President of the Republic of Sierra Leone. My take, honestly, is a bag of mixed fruits. in terms of looking at
the bag of mixed fruits.
Yes, a bag of mixed. How far we've come under the leadership of President Bio, looking at the educational sector, looking at the wars that the president came to fight, i.e. he said he was coming to fight war on poverty, war on indiscipline, war on corruption. Those three major wars, I'll be looking at them to give synopsis to the public as to how far are we in those fights.
Yeah.
And the president said he was going to how are we performing as a country in terms of revenue mobilization, in terms of expenditure, in terms of the empowerment of the local content. How are we contributing largely to the GDP and to the economy? Well, I'll give my own take on all of that.
Yes, that's a very good start. Yeah. At least we're supposed to know how much His Excellency has gone through his score sheet. But let's differ from that a little bit. I just want us to look at the score sheet of civil societies, because today the population of this, they really looking upon civil societies as their voices. Now, how do you rate the score sheet of civil societies that are supposed to be in position talking for these people, advocating for the people of this country, especially the grassroots? Now, I just want you to throw light on the score sheet, because we are seeing some civil society activists in former time, they were opposing certain things, and presently they are in government, they are in governance, and they speak no more. And you see, things are just changing for the people of this country. But let's look at the score sheet of our civil society in this country before going further to the three areas that His Excellency wanted to combat.
That is also the reason why, consistent of my conduct and my practice before now and currently, I have always but refrained from giving scores to government performance. I'll give analysis and let people judge what within their own mind they will decide to affix to whatever policy analysis I'm making. Because the point is, you would have to look at several parameters to determine as to, should I give this score? And if I give this score, I have to benchmark it on a lot of parameters, and which will take us the whole of the day for me to do those analyses. That's why I said, even with the previous government, I always restricted myself from giving figures. Rather, I will give the analysis for people to understand. If you are performing, people will be able to grade you. If you have not performed and the expectations of the people have not been met largely, they will be able to understand from my analysis that I will make. So I would rather not fix figures, but to give in-depth analysis.
That's fine.
And let people understand where my take comes from.
Good. Now, we have so many civil society organizations, human rights defenders, and human rights advocates, but there is still a bag of problem. People are just shattered around. They don't even know where to start and where to go. And with the help of some civil societies, they have been well guided. But those that, because of political influence or political inclusion or the rest of it. So how far has the civil society activists gone with their advocacy for these people?
Honestly, I tell you, my brother, the landscape has been mixed up very, very largely. I am cautious to say it, but that's the fact. The civil society landscape, and I oftentimes have told my colleagues, for the accessibility of our people and the affordability of our people, you are there in the civil society to speak out on the issues that bother around our people, whom cannot stand out to question government and public officials on their failure to deliver on those services. And so when you come into the civil society domain with that passion, you remain true to your service and to the cause to which you were called to promote. But when you have an undertone, an ulterior motive coming into the civil society, you are there either to fight for money, to make money, to have political gains. You align with politicians. I have worked with governments across, from the Tijan Kaba-led government. I collaborated with them. I collaborated in many areas with the President Nkrumah-led government, but I was one of the most vociferous voices against that government. You have to stand your grounds because you are the people's voice. The people pin their hopes on us to bring out their issues so that government can look at those issues that are challenging them, so that government will be able to intervene and address those. So, but when you become a politician as a civil society, you are defeating your purpose of being in the civil society.
Exactly.
And this is why you have seen, in fact, 2 months ago, people were like questioning me, Kev, we've not been seeing you on the media. Why? And I said to people, ask the media houses who have failed to invite me to their media programs. Because I don't go into people's media homes that I want to bring programs. It will become cost effective or cost implicated. Yeah. So what normally I look forward to, and as it has always happened, the media, like you invited me. Yeah. Yesterday I got a call that you want me to be here.
Oh, yes,
I made myself available.
That robust voice is what
SABC called me this morning that they wanted me to be on the morning coffee. I was there. If you call me, I will come in. If you don't call me, it's difficult for the people. And believe me, I tell you, many people look forward to some of us because we don't mince our words when we are addressing national issues. I don't care who sits on the throne. I respect leadership because as a Christian, the Bible teaches me to respect authority. That I do. I have enormous respect for our leaderships that have emerged over time. And even for the Mada Bio-led government, I hold respect for the presidency and all the leaders. But again, that does not undermine my stance. Okay. I rather would die for the truth than compromise the truth and betray the cause of my people. I will not do that. And so, you go to the landscape today, you barely find civil society really playing the role that they ought to be playing. Well, either maybe many of us that were playing that game during the 10 years era of President Nkrumah, many of us were doing it either because we were Southerners and now we find a party that is in power that is a Southern-based party. Because, mark you, the APC used to accuse all of us as opposition CSOs. Some of us have lived to prove to them that not all of us were rotting eggs. And when the issue of the parliamentary saga started, when government wanted to usurp parliament and have the APC thrown out, I came to the defense of the opposition. But when they were in government, they were crying foul against us. And we sat there at the podium, the honorable gentleman, I will not name his name, but he was like, say, civil society, why are you guys not saying anything? I said, fine. We have proven to you that you need us in governance because we are partners in development. Don't look at us as antis. We are not antis. We are far gone beyond those days where we will antagonize. No. We do constructive criticism and engagement. So if you begin to rule us out, and then when you have issues you want us to address those issues, you make us become cold-fitted to do. But honestly, the landscape has been polluted, but that's also part of human life. I want our people to understand it from that perspective. Yeah. In the human race, not everybody is true to the cause to which they are called to serve. You see, even in Christendom, you have many pastors today, they were called to serve, to lead people to Christ, to follow the ways of God, but yet they are there to maximize profit. They have forgotten the call. So this is about human race. Yeah. The human being is dynamic. And so many people come in and at the end of the day, they are found at the wayside. The Bible told us of all those things. I'm becoming too biblical this afternoon. but that's the fact of the matter.
Yes, because it all started from there.
Yes, it all started from there. Yes. You know, the Bible said we have seeds on the wayside. All seeds were broadcast to grow. Yeah. Some fell on the wayside, and some on the tongue, some on the rock. The sand. The few that fell on good soil, they germinated, sprouted up, and they bore good fruit. On the wayside, they've been trampled.
It's also a bag of mixed fruit.
A bag of mixed fruit, my brother.
Yes, yes.
So we have those that have stood the test of time over years. Good. Over the strand of the leaderships that we have had emerge in our country since we reintroduced democracy in Sierra Leone. Some of us, we started our activities, this is my 24th year, when we had military dictatorship in this country. So for me, I often tell people, if I was not afraid then to say government, as long as I don't smear you. That's why before I go to media, I do my research well. I do my homework well before I come to the media. So that when I say things, I don't implicate you unnecessarily. I don't castigate you because I feel like I have the platform. No. I bring out issues. I don't discuss personalities in all of my practice. That's what I do. So we need to really stand our ground to ensure our people benefit from our intervention as civil society players.
Yeah. So now let's go to the real goal of our editorial. Today is 1 year of His Excellency. Are there any area of success, and what are some of the disappointments that we are along the way until today?
Yes, I like that question. That's why I started on the premise that the celebration is a bag of mixed fruits.
Yeah.
And I'll start with the good fruits. You know, when you bring the good news and the person's heart feels gladdened,
yeah,
and the bad news comes, he'll be able to absorb the bad news. So I give the good news. In terms of the human resource revamping through education, yes, the government is on the right trajectory, but with huge challenge though. But let me look at the positive in the first place. The fact that government had come out to declare that there's going to be free quality education is a laudable one. And for the very first time, Sierra Leone's government, or the government of Sierra Leone, has had the courage to allot 21% of her budget allocation, her fiscal budget, to education. Is a laudable approach. I dove my hat with the presidency for taking that bold step. However, there are many downsides to it.
Okay.
So like I said this morning on another media, there's a thick line. That line is not thin, it is thick. You can see it. There's a thick line between free and quality.
Okay.
And so if you say you are bringing in free and quality education, for now we can judge on the performance of the free aspect of the educational intervention. But if you want to judge the quality aspect, no, you have to do some survey which can inform your conclusion, the judgment that you reach at the end of the day. That's why for me, I just don't do frivolous pronouncements. I want to subject myself to academic work. We need to do some research, and I have already completed the concept.
Yeah.
Maybe once I have the funding to go into it, within the next 1 or 2 weeks, we are going to launch it. We want to assess 21 communities just in the western area, urban and rural, looking at what has been the effect of the community people, the average people, the vulnerable people in our communities. What much have they benefited? So be able to reach a conclusion as to whether we have the impact, at what percentage level is the impact felt. You'll be able to determine that. But until that is done, we will not do justice also to to the government,
yeah,
or neither would we be helping them, because if you come and grade them that there's quality education, I have heard so many people say, oh, the government don't bring free and quality education. No, we have free education now.
Yeah.
The quality aspect of it cannot be determined yet.
Yeah.
Until you have subjected that process to some statistical, empirical evidence proven. Then you'll be able to come out and say, yes, there's quality education. So the quality aspect, let's leave it out. There's free education for now.
Yeah.
But even also the free education, I gave analysis this morning.
Yeah.
My daughter, one of my daughters attends a public school.
Yeah.
The Annie-Wash. Before now, when she was in JSS 1 and 2, I paid 150,000 yearly for her school fee. But then books, uniforms, and all the tools to use, school materials, were highly expensive. So I said, if government came in and said, okay, I'm removing this burden of school fees from you, it's like government just paying the 150,000 I used to pay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I had already bought books, textbooks.
Yeah.
I think 13 textbooks for the entire subject that she does at Beke level.
Yeah.
before government even came in with their
four books.
She didn't have 4. She had about 2.
Oh.
Yes. So my concern here is you will take away the burden of school fees, but school fees is not really the only tangible expenses that parents incur when they send their children to school. I will send my child to school if I don't have uniform to afford for that child will not be able to go to school.
Yeah.
If I cannot afford the other textbooks, all subjects are important. So the issue of core, I have problems with core. When you say we're giving core textbooks, why is the child doing the other subjects? Is it not because those subjects are important to that
Obviously.
child? So therefore, if they're important, then the child needs to have textbooks to those subjects. So every subject should have its own textbook.
Now, Kefkora, before proceeding from that junction, first, one question I would like to ask: quality product, is it possible for it to be free? That's one. Then, secondly, the free and quality education proposed by His Excellency was supposed to commence from kindergarten to that level. But have you ever, within your survey, within your research, have you ever come across kindergarten school, pre-primary schools that are really achieving the benefit of this free and quality education? These are 2 questions I would like for us to just run through easily quick.
Unfortunately, like I said, we have not commissioned the survey yet. I have only completed the concept, and I am aligning myself with a donor. I am pretty sure within the next 2 weeks, once we have the necessary funds, we're going to go into the fields, and then we'll be able to also interrogate all of those concerns
to know
as
that
to whether
quality good,
whether kindergarten kids are having access to this. That's another challenge. But honestly, if we want to address this education, and this I said by the time the government took up office, far even before that, when we had the runoff, I was also invited to your station here and SLBC as to what will be our take on education economics. For me, I prescribed to the 2 parties that were contesting for the runoff. I said I am suggesting, because I had gone through the manifesto of the APC, the LCPP, the C4C and the NGC. NGC had a pretty good model of educational intervention. They said they looked at the mammoth challenge in our educational sector, and they said for a country that has grappled with economic challenges, you cannot venture to address all of the issues, the underlying issues within the sector. We want to phase our intervention. I said to the government, to the 2 protagonists then, running for the runoff, that there's nothing bad in looking at good documents. It may not have come from you, but have a look at the C4C prescription of their intervention on education. Have a go at the NGC prescription of their education intervention. Bring those principles to your own, the maker, and go into intervention. There's nothing wrong in reading from another man's page, as long you acknowledge that yes, I'm reading from your page. Intellectually it is acceptable. It is that I have plagiarized. But if I tell you and I'm inform you and you give me approval, yes, it is acceptable. So this is for best practice for our country. Going at it all, you could recall that in the manifesto of the SLPP, they had committed themselves to buying textbooks, uniforms, bags and shoes. They realized along the way, between August to September, that it is not feasible to start buying all of those things and pay school fees at the same time.
And add school feeding.
And add school feeding at the same time.
Yeah, school feeding was there.
So they tailored it.
Yeah.
This was some of the steps we had advised. Don't go at it all together. You can start, let's say, from primary to JSS and address primary 1-6, JSS 1-2-3. By the time you go into second year, you look at the other phase, SSS 1-3. By the time you graduate to third year, maybe you look at the tertiary or the textbook. How do you strengthen those institutions? And even at the budget discussion, I made a representation to the Minister of Education, secondary and lower. I said to Dr. Timbo, you should have done a holistic survey, surveying the educational infrastructure of our country. If you go across this country, we are all not on the same slate. The infrastructure in Freetown, in the western urban, far outweighs the strength of the academic infrastructure you will find in the provinces. And when you go to the south, predominantly say go to Bo, you go to Moyamba, you go to Pujang. Pujang has very good infrastructure for education. Bo has so many. They have so many grade A schools that have good structures, good compound for children to play. Fine. But go to the north. I'm a nationalist. When I project development aspirations, I look at the nation.
The four corners of the country, yes. Of course.
If you go to the far north, you realize infrastructure are poor. Building, furniture, you look at textbooks, those are really poor.
And it's part of the poverty.
I worked in Kwenadugu for 4 years.
It's part of the poverty.
I worked in Kwenadugu for 4 years, and I've been going and coming with interventions in Kwenadugu. Yeah. You have villages where there are children going to school, they don't sit on the, they sit there and they learn. After the class, they all take their benches that they brought to school back home. Is that a school? But they want to learn. So you have to do all of those surveys to inform you as to the level of the gaps that we have, even between regions, districts, and chiefdoms. So when you are now apportioning allocations, you look at all those parameters. You just don't allocate because you want to allocate. You'll be double dipping. Let me put it this way. Let's say if you want to bring out of the 1 trillion, you see you're giving 500 billion to western area. What informed your allocation? When we have well-structured schools in western area, leaving the rural areas. Yeah. So remote places in Kailan you go, schools are not interactive. You look at strengthening those gaps, bring them to par within the first 1-2 years, and then once you bring them to a little par with those that are advanced, you now begin to increase everyone's own standard because you have brought them to that level. That's how you address development. Yeah. But if not, you are creating
poverty, and when we want to link it with this education, as we are saying, it is pronounced that free and quality education is going to be provided, but the people are poor. So bringing that proposal of free and quality education, it also means that you are drawing them away from poverty. I don't think free and quality education is the only aspect that can reduce poverty.
I tell you, no, education can address poverty in a very, very large way. I tell you, I come from a little middle class family. But before rising to that little middle class, my father was just a missionary worker and a housewife. Although my father and both my parents could provide for my schooling at the time, but then we struggled. We struggled. And when my father eventually left for greener pastures abroad, I was in the home of his cousin. I was like a hired slave in that home. Oh yes. But for me, I saw education as the only gateway to relieving me from that poverty, the dungeon of poverty. And so I gave myself to learning and to be educated. I thank God I have not in that class that you say, oh, he's well off, but at least I'm able to afford for my children, I'm able to afford for myself, for my family.
If I could learn from you, is that your mindset, you develop a certain mindset that whether I am poor, or whatever situation I find myself, I have to be educated.
In fact, education places you on a platform wherein you gain your self-esteem.
Good. Let us just
poverty drills you down and you lose your esteem. Okay. But when you are educated, you regain that lost esteem, and it places you in a situation where you are able to judge. Say, but me, I know they down and down.
Yeah, that changed me.
Because you are hopeful. You may not have it all today. Yeah. But you are hopeful that one day some opportunities will come calling for the qualification that I hold. Yeah. This morning I told my wife that by God's grace I want to go for my PhD. And she said, yes, you are running into your 50s, so try and do it quickly before you turn 50.
Yes, pretty soon we'll be seeing Kev Koba as a doctor of philosophy. Well,
by God's grace.
Yes, viewers out there and listeners of 90.4 FM. This is Freetown Television Network. We come to you live from our number 2 Good News, and the program The Views is extended today because it's the 365th day in existence of the Sierra Leone People's Party. We are going for a short break, and when we come back, we continue with more information and more deliverance of the message about the 1 year in stay of the Sierra Leone People's Party. Do stay with us.
VFX footage. VFX footage. VFX footage. VFX footage. VFX footage. VFX footage.
Today waka just begin for me to better tomorrow. For as long as we dey keep for work on we self, we go most bring out we best. We own best in how we can come near the people and things them we matter to we. We dey look for experience where they connect we any side and they give we sense altered.
Orange, the most reliable network na salon today. Don't put plenty money per network coin. The best telecom service at the highest standard. Any side you dey na salon.
Orange.
You know they? No, you tell me I go join this local SIM couple. For me, I download this thing, and I want to be able to get access to my account. And I want to know so now we can.
Okay, so now this one is really simple. You don't go to the bank?
No.
Okay. Now go to the bank, let them update your account. Make sure say your telephone number they all know, because now the telephone number will make you get access to your local SIM couple.
Okay.
Where you dey go? Make sure say you carry your bank ID card. And also the mobile phone where you use, because now there we go download the app for you. Okay, so now you will not get account with me. What you need to wait for? Go to any of we branch and open account so you self go enjoy the local SIM couple.
Local commercial bank don't make life better for we all.
VFX footage. VFX footage. VFX footage. VFX footage. VFX footage.
Yes, welcome back to the program The Views, your news and current affairs program from Freetown Television Network. Today is a special one as today marks the 1-year anniversary of the Sierra Leone People's Party in governance. And I want to thank the Almighty God, first of all, for being alive to see this day. There are so many things that have been said about governance, about the present government and all the rest. But we are trying to see where we made successes and where we failed to address certain issues. I'm in the studio with Kef Koba of Forward Sierra Leone, and we've been joined in the studio by Sir Kendema. It's Kendema. Sir Kendema, the program manager for Campaign for Good Governance. CGG. I like the initial CGG.
Thank you.
Big brother, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you too.
Good. We have been deliberating on issues concerning the 1 year of governance of His Excellency President Julius Maada Bio, and of course the Sierra Leone People's Party government. Now, we are looking at the successes and some of disappointments that we got along the line. But according to my landed brother, Kef Koba, really it's a bag of mixed fruit. There are things that we expect to have reached the height that we wanted it to reach, but not yet, notwithstanding they are still on the pipeline. And there are things that are not even surfacing at all when we talk about the three target points of His Excellency during his campaign, and even when he came to power during his first speech at Parliament and the inauguration. He spoke about fighting poverty, corruption and indiscipline, and there are so many lapses between these three areas for now. I don't know how you can look at it for this 1 year, sir.
All right, thank you very much. And just to draw the attention of the public that a year ago we had about 17 political parties that contested for the presidency. At the end of the day, the current government, His Excellency Julius Maada Bio, happens to win, and he won on the basis of a very good manifesto from the people, because I'm sure all of the political parties presented their manifesto, but the most convincing one did emerge as the winner. So what we've been doing, Campaign for Good Governance, now is to sort of do an assessment. You know, the first 100 days was assessed, and now the one year assessment is due. So what are some of the things you will be looking at? You look at some of the promises that were made by the government. Some will say yes, 5 years has not elapsed yet, so there isn't any need doing an assessment. But the assessment we are doing is that what has happened thus far within the first 365 days. That is the
1 year.
The 1 year. Yeah. And based on our assessment, yesterday we did a press release called Reflecting on President Bio's 1 year in office, a call to action. Do not repeat mistakes of the past, because they keep saying this thing, oh, when we came to power there were these challenges, we had this problem. So we are calling now, do not repeat the mistakes of the past. And doing an assessment of the president's 1 year in office, we realized that or we commend him for the launch of the free quality education program and the allocation of 21% of government budgets to education, and commitment to ensure that over 1.9 million school children benefit from these initiatives. Yeah. We believe these are very good initiatives. But however, we made some cautioning notes to the president. You might, or the government, you might have this good initiative, which is laudable, because we believe in education, because it is only through education that sons and carpenters can sort of realize their true dreams. Education is the engine of personal development, so we believe in that and we appreciate that. But however, there are challenges that are coming up, especially the one that has to do with the inadequate textbooks, which we think we need to draw the attention of the government that there is a need for them to respond to that, and also concerns around school fees and the examination fees. It will interest you to know that based on our findings, schools that are yet to receive some of these items, and as well in terms of payment of the school fees, there has been examination fees has been challenged. Recently we saw the WAEC release. I don't know whether you saw it, wherein they did mention that there are concerns with there are some constraints in terms of paying some of these fees. We also acknowledge the government's scaling up of service delivering and poverty reduction, because there are indications, towards this direction, but much more would have been done, comparatively. And we as well, or we say, commend the government in terms of the strive towards accountability and transparency, looking at the Commission of Inquiry, at the same time looking at the fight against corruption. Yes, this has been some giant step when it comes to governance, when it comes to accountability, but we are calling on the government to see how best a place they could sort of utilize those funds, especially those retrieved from these corrupt practices or these corrupt politicians, as to how they're able to utilize it, so that at least we have a diagnosis center in this country, so people will have no need traveling to other countries to sort of get some of these such as healthcare services. And the move towards the sexual and offenses is also a giant commitment from the government. It's something we do appreciate, but we are cautioning the government that much more needs to be done, and especially when it comes to the review of some of these laws, because we need the review of these laws. It's only when these laws are reviewed that our desired outcome, our desired expected impact will be achieved. We are a bit worried. We are a bit worried. Let me just come to this. We are a bit worried that we are yet to hear or to see a practical discussion around the constitutional review process. Because if you look at the constitutional review process, the constitution is the supreme document of the land. And the expectation is that within this 1 year, discussions around this would have commenced. But in the situation wherein discussion around have not commenced, is a bit worrisome, and we all know the controversy that is around this constitutional review process, especially when the first draft came. All citizens' priorities were not integrated into it. So there was a need for a second discussion around it, to the point that we had a very good document. But frustratingly, when the white paper came out, we see that it did not reflect the views of most Sierra Leoneans as such. So that is worrisome. And we are also worried about the executive orders that are coming out, which we believe, especially in the implementation of executive orders, there are excesses around it which ought to be taken into address and taken into consideration. And the unhealthy deliberation, the legitimacy of parliament is also something key, and which we believe ought to be sort of addressed. We see parliament to be another organ of government that is expected to be efficient and effective in some of their delivery, and should be devoid of the executive and the judiciary encroachment into their work. And we want to see a situation wherein the judiciary is absolutely independent in doing their work. And if that is done, I'm sure Sierra Leone will be a better place. But thus far, we are also worried when it comes to equitable distribution of resources. We mentioned that, and I think these are sort of generated a lot of debate around. So you see, we are calling that do not repeat the mistake of the past.
These observations some of the mistakes of the past?
These were some of the mistakes of the past, and we are seeing indication and some indicators even in the current government. So that is why we are calling on the current government that these were mistakes of the past. You see, sometimes people say, oh, they did this, they did this, they did this. There is nothing wrong setting the good precedent. and go away from the wrong precedents. So that is why we've come up with this press release, having this title that reflects, or we call it, reflecting on President's Bill 1 year, a call to action. Remember, do not repeat mistakes of the past.
Good. Now, Kefkoba, let me come back to you. We are on the footing of the free and the quality, underlining the education. Now, Sir is telling about, yes, there are areas of success, but yes, things are yet to be done concerning the free and the quality. And I asked the question whether a quality product can be free. That was where we ended up. And now we are thinking about the mistakes of the past that CGG is trying to surface, to bring to light, and say, please don't do, don't even step into things that will bring us back to the past. Do you buy the ideas of it?
Of course, that's our role. Serve as a watchdog to government, and making sure we're able to inform you as to the dynamism that we always find within the governance strata itself. And therefore, if we continue to engage government and we engage the media to engage the people, we'll let every other body to be informed. And so it is always but good for us to bring out those things. I said this morning in my morning coffee program. But government should not be jittery when they hear us present these analytical assessment of the performance. You should be prepared to listen. You know, the Bible says, he who the Father loves, he chasteneth. If your citizens are crying and they are pinpointing some of the challenges that you face as you govern them, it is because they love you. They want to bring these things to your fore so that you can be able to correct them. We don't want to sit on our oasis only for us to wait for the expiration of the 5-year term. We begin to criticize President Bill. We would not have done him justice. We would not have been fair to him. We did these things to the past regime. They did not listen at a point. And so they kept doing those same mistakes. So this morning I said to my brother, you guys need to pay listening ears. Listen to us. The civil society you see today is not the civil society 20 years back when some of us started civil society activism, where you had so much of mediocrity and mediocres. We have highly educated professionals within the civil society today. And so we speak to you from academic background, not just because we want to say things. That's why when I started my presentation here, I said, I always want to subject myself to academic work before I really take on issues. I do my research. I do my literature review of issues, my desktop review, so that I'm informed myself before I begin to take on those issues. Because if you are not informed, you will only be blabbing. So, but going forward, this is why I said I wanted to speak on the 3 categories I told you President had chosen
poverty,
to fight.
The corruption, and
in the fight against corruption, President is doing extremely well in terms of fighting corruption by instituting the Commission of Inquiry. But having said that, I was here several times in your own studio here. I went across the other studios, the AYV, the SLBC. I said, government, if you really want to prove to us as Sierra Leoneans that you are fighting corruption, do not segregate. Subject everybody that served under the leadership of President Nkrumah, regardless of what your political affiliation was at the time. Subject people. They are Sierra Leoneans. If they had been seen defrauding the state and the people of this country, subject them all to the inquiry process, so that at the end of the day, the same mistakes my brother has mentioned, we don't repeat the mistakes of the past.
That comes under accountability and transparency.
Yes, governance is about transparency, it's about accountability. And therefore, the SEC also has been recovering some monies.
But 12 billion.
But again, the 12 billion, I have some concerns over that. The our law says you should not hold on the government's revenue for over 48 hours. It should be in the consolidated fund.
And how?
But then the 12 billion that have been raised, instead of directly posting that money into the consolidated revenue fund, it was handed over to the presidency. You can tell the president how much you have recovered, but the money should not go to the president. It should go direct to the consolidated fund. Because that is where the law prescribes for government's money to be.
So -1 for transparency and accountability on that issue.
Exactly. You tell us, yes, I've raised this money, I've recovered this.
Yeah.
But why haven't you placed all of the money into the consolidated account?
Nobody, it's a single account running now.
No, the single account does not preclude the fact that you should not put it into the consolidated fund.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where it's the central fund. Now, another thing that the president has been able in a bid to fight corruption was the bold step taken in implementing the single treasury account. Yeah, they followed through on the act, the Finance Act of 2018 or 2017. They followed through on it. That's a close on his part, because we had fought for this law to be brought to fruition under the then leadership of President Nkrumah. We got stalled. Yes, they designed all the framework of it. The laws were drafted, but then it was not passed, it was not enacted, and it was not implemented. The political will to implementing it was not there, it was absent. So he coming in to implement it, yes, it's a kudos to him. But then, have government been able also to update the public, the citizenry, as to the performance of the Treasury single account to this date? No. That's a challenge. So it means we should not just be making laws for law's sake. These are laws that will be able to benchmark as to how far have we made progress as a country, as a people, and in our governance. That's one side of the fight against corruption. But let me come to the fight against poverty. If you fight in poverty, it means you want to develop the human index first. Well, government is making some stride towards the free education, but that one is a long-term intervention. Because education, you will take 12-15 years before you begin to gain fully it from the education that you invested in. Again, as they build the human resource, government has begun giving scholarships to Sierra Leoneans to study abroad. Some in first undergraduate degrees, some in masters, and some in their PhDs. But I raised this thing when I went to the Ministry of Education. In our constitution, there are some moves, some policy moves you make, you undermine the constitutional provision of the country. Chapter 2 of our constitution, section 8, that speaks to your educational aspiration, that the citizens should be encouraged, shall be encouraged to exhibit to the optimum of his own ability to be educated. If you are giving scholarships and you have begun giving age limits, you are limiting Sierra Leoneans. I mean, for goodness sake, we should understand the educational makeup of our country. Some people went to school too late. Some started schooling beyond 7 years, some 10 years. Some had spent more years before they gained their undergraduate degree. By the time you say you are awarding masters at 35, some people have gone beyond 35 years. Are they not fit, even with their first class? Are they not fit to have access to scholarship because of age limits?
Oh, that's the division of the people.
It's discriminatory.
Exactly.
So we are not promoting equality here. That's inequality. Government should not subject herself to policies that would undermine the constitutional validity of our country. Masters, they are pegging it at 45 degrees, 45 years. PhD, 45 years. Masters, 35. People want to go for PhDs. They've done their masters. They struggled even to have money to pay 28 million to do masters. Some people have graduated 10-15 years. It is now that they've done masters. They want to go into PhD and you are saying 45 years. And the man is way beyond 45. Yet he's healthy. he can analyze, he can read, he can still study. Why subject himself to that discrimination? So we also need to look at the policies that we come up with, not to undermine our very progress that we want to make in building on the human resource base. Okay. That's one aspect. Yeah. Again, the economic side of our country. How many indigenous Sierra Leoneans are in the front line of our economy? That's a whole challenge. This is why dollarization has become a thing of a tongue in our flesh. The leons, the value of the leons as against the dollar, I think now is 9,000 leons today. It is because I said this, my brother got offended, but I have no apologies to him for it. Because the point is, that's the fact. Yeah. Foreigners have taken hold of our economy. Even the internal economy that we run here, we have the Indians, the Nigerians, the Lebanese. They are the forefront of our economy. We have the Guineans. I'm not talking of the Sierra Leoneans. These are foreign players, and because we have foreign players controlling the economy, the front line of our economy, they have become a bottleneck in the exchange rate. They determine how to fix the price to fix for the exchange rate between the leons and the dollars, because when they generate money here, they transform those into dollars and expatriate them to their own countries. They repatriate those monies to their countries, and so we are left with little dollars available. We scramble for it, and therefore they refix every day. Sometimes in the morning you go, dollar is at 8-9. By the time it's evening, it has gone to 9,100. It's a whole game. How are you moving people from the poverty line? When we need to have radical economic policy design that can empower Sierra Leonean indigenous entrepreneurs. We have emerging entrepreneurs now in the landscape. Government should ensure bank interest rate on investment is reduced drastically. When President Trump took up office, he said bank rate on investment, he was bringing it down to 5%. To some states, it came down to 3%. If you are not radical in promoting the interest of the local content, you will not be able to compete also with the foreign players in the market, in your own very economy.
Well, now the huge sum of money the Anti-Corruption Commission is collecting when in terms of fighting corruption, and then at the end of the day, we are seeing US dollars being auctioned.
All right. Yeah, the reason why we are not having impact, the reason why we are not having impact, government is doing its own best to cushion the situation, but because they are not doing it in the right fashion, so we are not getting it right. Yeah, if you pump 5 million within 2 weeks, that money is missing in the market. The money is missing in the market because it is going back to the foreign players in our business, in our market, in our economy. So when they take this money, you saw here, was it last year, late last year, when a Lebanese was apprehended with over $350,000 and 100 and something thousand, I don't know the right figure now, pounds, going out of the country. This is how they've been robbing our country, because these are foreigners playing with our money, with our economy. They are leading the economy. And so what would government do in this case? Those in group them. Every month I want to see government bring in entrepreneurial pitching programs, so that people come and pitch their business ideas. You pitch your business idea, government institutions should be seated, bring private sector investors to identify and align with those pitches. Those pitches that people will do, you now come behind doors and discuss how to roll over in terms of implementation and to bankroll those ideas into fine programs that can translate into job creation, into promoting the economic landscape of the country. And lastly on this indiscipline. Indiscipline is the word that I have not really seen robust steps taken to address indiscipline as a war.
Of course, in fact, it is
the strength of the government. The strength of the government in fighting the 3 wars is more based on fighting corruption. That's the war of corruption that government is really poised to fight. They are fighting to address poverty, but in a very low scale. But for indiscipline has surged to the highest degree. yesterday I was correcting a police officer that just parked in the way of the traffic. I said to him, you should be setting the brightest example in this country. But then if law enforcement agents are not law abiding, how do you expect the average citizen to be law abiding?
Why is the people are expecting this particular government?
When we have ministers that are not law abiding, they just drive anyhow in the streets.
Yes, that's why I want to
simply because they think they are in authority. No, they should be subjected to the rules of the country.
I want to throw the line.
Nobody is above the law except the president and the vice president. They are supposed to drive in convoy, not ministers. But we see these things happen every day. People people shy away from speaking out on those things, and these are the things that promote lawlessness. We have had rape on the increase, save for the intervention now when the president declared the emergency. But even at that, we are yet to assess: are rapes still happening? Has it dropped?
It is happening every second.
Great.
Now the discipline that we are fighting. It's just I don't want to say it is not even happening. The indiscipline obviously people are expecting it to be at a very low key presently, because His Excellency and this government, they are more of that disciplinary background.
People still throw that in street corners.
Can I come in? Can I come in here? So that at least we have a balanced
situation.
All right.
What I want to say is that our economy is in a tragedy.
Yes.
Now we see the government and the Bank of Sierra Leone auctioning US dollars. We're seeing people selling dollars along the line, along the street, not even in the banks, at prices that they want. If you want it, okay. If you don't want it, okay.
That is why.
Can this one help to salvage the situation of our economy?
I think
whilst we are crying that they met a battered economy, but yet the economy continues to be battered. Which are some of the ways that you think have been helping to resolve this economic problem since the coming of His Excellency now?
All right, I think that is why in our press release we made it clear that we know citizens concerned over the depreciation of the leons, rising cost of basic goods and their implication on the quality of Sierra Leone's life. And what we ended on saying is that we call on the government to take remedial steps. When we talk about remedial steps, take necessary steps that will help address the depreciation of the leons and that will sort of address the economy. Because we all know most of the prices are tied on dollars. You see that when the dollar prices goes up, that affects even the layman in the market, to the point that they will say, oh, have you not heard that the dollar is up? So this is the cost of the current cost of the price. So it becomes so worrisome that we have to tie our economy to that of the dollar. I understand we as a country, or what they will say probably is that we are not exporting anything. That's understood. But I'm sure that is why we are having experts in their own discipline, in their own field, to help us, at least they could help address some of these problems. You guys are talking about discipline. Indiscipline, I think, has been the order of the day. Government in, government out, and among us. And why is it that is happening? It's interesting to note that indiscipline has become the order of the day simply because personal interest has surpassed state interest in most of the events that we do. Because somebody with such of say, as long as I'm satisfied, I care less about whatever you feel or however you want to do it. So I don't give it. I don't give a damn about what might be the repercussion. That is why you will see somebody who will be sitting conveniently while he's driving, others are at the back suffering. He doesn't care. As long as he is talking to somebody, he or she is fine with that. But that can be addressed in the situation wherein we sort of appropriate true commitment to whatever we are saying. And this is what the president was talking about. He talks about discipline, that he has come to fight against corruption, to ensure and fight against lawlessness. That's a very good pronouncement, and that's a very good initiative. And how do we expect that to see? We expect that, one, to see that we exhibit or we serve as role model. That is when he started off with time management, by ensuring that people are disciplined to report to time, to be at work on time. But that only lived for just few weeks. Yeah. After which we went to our usual habits. Then again, I think there was another release that talks about this two-way approach of road, two-way driving, that everybody has to be on the correct road. But this has not been the case. over the years, to the point that now you even see ministers, no matter, even if it is a long traffic, they will sort of move to the other side of the road to get themselves out of the courts. So we have to set precedent. We have to be an example to whatever we say, and this has affected the country to the point that even if we do not address that, even generation yet unborn will sort of follow that. Remember, just a phrase has sort of contributed to corruption being in an increase. The phrase that in the Taika Usa in the eat, quote and unquote, to the point that people have taken that as the order of the day. That hey, what this means is that as long as how do they call it? As long as I am here, so it is my responsibility to see how best at least I can survive from here. That is, I know you cannot be by the bank of the river and then wash your hand with the spittle. These are also of the whole thing, and these are key messages we need to come up with that would help fight against discipline. Messages that would sort of address indiscipline in the country, and we have to be patriotic. For goodness sake, we have our national anthem that sort of talks about where we demonstrate the love we have for the country, the emblem, the unity, freedom, you know, and put our interest above all else. Sometimes we hear that in our national anthem. What that suggests is that whatever we do as citizens, the interest of the country has to be supreme. The interest of the country has to be there. We have to protect the country. We have to be nationality. That's what we say, and put our interest above all else. But the question is, have we been putting the interest of Australian above all else? The answer is no. In some instances,
we need
indiscipline has caused that.
More robust laws, more robust action when we talk about the authorities that are responsible for disciplinary actions.
It has to it has to be collective.
Obviously,
it has to be collective. We are all part and parcel of the government.
Yeah.
It should not just be the responsibility of the government, as well the responsibility of the citizens themselves.
But it has to start somewhere. It has to start somewhere.
If it is to start somewhere, it has to start from homes, because that's where we get our first education. We need to get it there. It has to start from schools.
My brother,
because that's where we are getting it.
I tell you,
and what we are calling here now is that, like for the government has to lead by example. We need an exemplary role from the government. So you see that I'm apportioning the responsibility to each and every actor as such.
No,
for government, when you say
individuals, I think that from the home.
Yeah,
but when it comes to national issues,
yes,
it starts from the government.
It starts from the public and as well the government as well.
Major,
that is why we are calling the government to sort of lead by example. If you say work commences at 8 o'clock, people have to be disciplined to be at work at 8 o'clock. If you say you have to follow the traffic rule, it should be the responsibility of everybody to follow the traffic rule. But in a situation wherein you as a minister, you do not adhere to that, what do you expect of the next person?
Recently, we had about 8 police officers that were arrested for corrupt practices.
Exactly.
Along the line.
Yeah.
When you go to the court,
there
are so many problems.
That's just the point I want to make.
Cases of 45 years.
Where
are we going?
That's just the point.
But that's where we say so.
Our president
the point here is
military background.
The point here is, yes, you made a very valid point that from the home we should train our children
the way they should grow.
The way they should
grow. So that when they are grown, they will not depart from it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
From day one, I started moving along with my children in the car. I told them, whatever you eat, whatever peel you create, put it inside the car. Don't throw it out. When we reach home, I will clean the car. But I tell you, I get hot every day when I see people, even in taxis. They will drink water and then throw the sachet outside. They eat corn, they chew corn, they throw it outside. Yeah. The driver has no respect for the country to even tell them not throw an ado. One day I had to cross past the driver. I said, go back and pick that stuff you threw into the streets. Who's can man this? Who can get man this? But sometimes you are embarrassed when you want to correct things for your country.
Yeah.
People misunderstand you. They call you all sort of names. You are pompous. You are this. But for me, I don't relent. However, the state has a responsibility. You know, go to the West. Human beings, we are all the same. The difference in the West is the fact that why people abide is because they know somebody is watching. There's a camera watching you. There's a physical police monitoring you. If you violate, they will grab you and you pay fine. Law enforcement, If we don't optimize our law enforcement in this country, lawlessness will just be anything.
Yeah, yeah.
And
so
in addition to that,
to optimize it also in the management of public facility. The way we handle them is just absolutely lawless. People drive government fleets, they mismanage them, they dump them into garages. They are there, nobody cares about it. That's taxpayers' money. You see brand new vehicles, they are broken down, nobody attends to them, and they go rotten, and somebody cuts away with the parts.
Just take a look at the front entrance and the backyard of Uri building.
Yes.
The ministerial face of this country.
That's indiscipline.
You'll be amazed to see
it is
broken vehicles.
It is indiscipline to its highest degree when you mismanage public infrastructure.
Yes.
Public facilities.
Yes.
That's lawlessness.
So that is why in our press release we are making it categorically clear. Do not repeat the mistakes of the past. I think if the current government is a listening government, this will sort of help them. That is why in our press release we did categorize a whole lot of commendation and challenges. You see, the problem about indiscipline is an old age problem. For goodness sake, this is the country where you eat a mango seed, you throw it away, within weeks it will germinate. The question is, we are still dependent on importation.
And we have a
fertile land. This is a country where where there will be flooding, houses will be carried, people will be killed. You go to your house, you open the tap, water does not run there. This is the country where you have people in other places, people are sort of crying for sunlight. We have abundant sunlight. This is the country where you have the most educated people who are contributing in other countries.
Well,
people who are developing other countries.
Sir.
Yet, when it comes to the Human Development Index, we are at the bottom. So you begin to ask yourself, what is responsible?
Now let me
what is the problem?
Let me just get it straight.
Leadership.
Leadership
when
and
trees
discipline.
fall on trees, first the topmost must be removed.
Exactly.
Right? That's what the author said. He said when trees fall on trees,
first remove the
topmost. Where are we going to start? Where are we supposed to
start?
We are addressing discipline.
So now this is where I was leading. That has not been reflected in the country. So you begin to ask. The paradox of plenty becomes the order of the day. With the abundant natural resources we have.
Last 1 year, nothing has changed.
You know,
in that section.
Well, it all depends to how do you look at development, from the angle from which you look at development.
No, in terms of indiscipline.
You understand? So the way forward here is that one, we need to have a situation wherein people see the interest of the state beyond their own interest. And we need to apply what we refer to in in governance, the machine theory, wherein everybody is brought on board, because the development of the state does not lie in the hands of just one set of people, one particular set of people. Everybody has to be involved. Just as you have your car, what the machine theory says is that just as you have your car, the horn is important, the tire is important, the brake is important, the trafficator, the light is important. So in state governance, everybody is important and everybody has to be involved into the whole process. In a situation wherein we have that, Sierra Leone will be a paradise. And of course, we have to be disciplined. Physical discipline is required, time management is required, and we have to live by example. We need to set precedent for the next generation. In a situation where I'm coming, please, let me just end up to this. In a situation wherein we do not do that, trust me, we will be here next year again analyzing the whole thing. That is why in our press release we are calling the government. The free education is a very good initiative, but at least there are concerns that are coming up which we want you to address. In terms of the anti-corruption commission, the recovery that has been done, that's applaudable, but we want to see that those resources are managed in such a way that at least the least person in Sri Lanka will benefit from it. Let's have a diagnosis test wherein everybody will benefit from that. BU, SLPP, APC, everybody so far. And as all, we are calling on the government as well when it comes to the fight against this sexual gender-based violence, that at least we need to review some of these existing documents that are here. And as well, we are calling for Parliament to be effective, for the judiciary to be independent, so that at least they can do their work efficiently. And lastly, we want the government to resume discussion around the constitutional review process, because the constitution is a supreme document. In a situation wherein we do not have a document that guides the state, it becomes problematic. So we want that government to be reviewed.
What you're trying to put across is that a little has been done since the 1 year.
So, yeah, some progress has been made. You cannot discard. You cannot discard that no progress has been made. Progress has been made. For the comparative analysis, we are saying there is that we want the government to do more. And to do more, these are some of the recommendations that we made, as when we say we, in terms of campaign for good governance, that we profiled in our press release. That government, if you do this, you do this, you do this, we sure progress will be made. Do not repeat the mistakes of the past. Remember, you came into power because people corrected the mistakes of the past. So we do not want it. And we have to set the precedent. Right. And resources have to be distributed. They have to be distributed equitably. So that at least you do not leave the opposition out. Everybody needs to benefit.
According to all your analysis, I agree. I like the way you put it across. Your press release is very, very educative. But yet, little has been done.
Great.
Over the past
for me, I agree with you. Very little has been done. And in taking this country forward, for me, I say, fight in discipline. Fight in discipline. Fight in discipline. And fight for economic justice of the Sierra Leonean people. When we address those fundamentals, this country will forge ahead. We need to raise the middle income earners of the country's population to a very high percentage level. Then we'll be able to address poverty. And he touched on agriculture. We have fertile land. Some of us have ventured into agriculture a year or two ago with our personal resources, but we are constrained. And then we don't have government partnering with Sierra Leoneans entrepreneurs that have ventured using their own capital to broaden on this. I have land family. I have done this engagement, done pitches on TVs. I've not had anybody from government to invite me to say, young man, come, let's see what will happen. Instead, what has happened 2 weeks ago is a government functionary going to my own village now, wanting to grab our land away from us, that they want 2,000 hectares of land from us, and we are farmers. All we need tractors. If you can give us tractors, I will be able to farm 500 acres every year. This year I'm doing 30-acre corn, maize. Yes. So if we had already started plowing from the day before yesterday.
The authorities that are supposed to, who are supposed to help salvage the situation.
There are many Sierra Leoneans.
Adding to the
I tell you, there are many Sierra Leoneans. There are many Sierra Leoneans that are doing large-scale farming than me. They are there. They are in the south. They are in the east. They are in the north. Identify these Sierra Leoneans. My concern is building the local content. The agricultural attraction that we have made to foreigners, yes, but how much would we benefit as a country from those interventions? What will be the percentage of our benefit? So if you empower Sierra Leoneans, grow more, grow rice, grow maize, grow cashew nuts, you have money in the pockets of Sierra Leoneans. We control the economy. Once we control the economy, our country become powerful and vibrant, because you have young people like in Singapore. When you talk of the rich men, these are people between 25 to 38 years going to 40. They control the economy because they have been empowered by the government. Government has to be proactive in bringing initiatives that will really lift Sierra Leoneans from below the poverty line and to challenge the foreign players in our market. Because once you empower us, we're able to compete with them positively and effectively. We'll be able to change the landscape.
I do learn from you that indiscipline is yet on the high piece.
Sure.
As Kefkowa has just said, here is somebody who's supposed to give a hand to agriculture, instead going there to grab the land.
Yes.
And then, I don't know, maybe personal or for another interest.
Yeah.
So that shows that indiscipline is at a very high rate.
But it can be addressed.
Stakeholders, if elites, authorities can flout discipline, then what where are we heading for?
That's a challenge. That's a challenge. But however,
really, I want to thank you all because
I really wanted to land on this note, please. Just a minute.
Okay,
No, there's an analysis making waves on the social media, but I just want to use this medium to clarify.
You're most welcome.
Yeah, somebody did from the parliamentary update. Somebody did synopsis on the performance of our revenue mobilization, and they were doing comparative analysis between 2017-2018 performance, 2018-19 from April last year to March this year, and then 2016 and 2017. I just challenged the person. I've sent my own piece. That, you know, it is good if let's stop making politics out of everything. When you inform people, inform them from a real data
Point of view.
Yeah. This person is saying we have generated 5 trillion between 2018 and 2019, and this is the best ever. It's a lie. It's a fallacy. In 2016, I did a piece, I did a publication that Democrat newspaper published. I termed it the APC reckless spending. The Minister of Finance at that time and Economic Development had budgeted in the budget statement that he presented to Parliament that Sierra Leone was going to generate a revenue of 3 trillion. And the expenditure budget that was forecast was placed at 4 trillion. It means we were in excess of 1 trillion, which will allow us to lend or borrow whatever to finance that budget so that we were able to spend 4 trillion. When government introduced new strands of taxation, GST on electricity, GST on water and other services, we were able to generate far more than we had envisaged. It was over 100%. We had targeted to mobilize 3 trillion. We mobilized as a country 6.54 trillion. Go and check in the report of the Accountant General of 2017 March. It's there.
So it's even more than
I took that up now with the Parliament. I wrote to Parliament through Democrats. The Parliament, if government had presented to you a budget, expenditure budget of 4 trillion. Now, because they have seen a surge in our mobilization of 6.54 trillion, they have expended everything, even though they didn't have program for the extra 2.5 trillion. They have expended it and they've gone into deficit. We had a deficit of 240 billion. I did all those analyses and I published it. So for somebody to come now and say in 2016 we generated 3 trillion is a fallacy. I want to set the record straight. I have written to the platform that published it. I have quoted my source.
Let them go back.
Go to Democrats. I did it between May and June of 2017 before I left this country. I did that publication. I will also try to track my own copy of the paper. I will let you have it. Good. But let them go to the Accountant General's report. We generated forever since in the history of this country 6.54 trillion. So it means in 2016-17,
all right,
April to March. So Israel can generate such amount within that period. When we had just come from Ebola, it was part of Ebola recovery. It means we had always had the ability to generate more money. The problem is it has to do with accountability on the willingness of people to transparently deal with our mobilization. Yes.
Where's the money going?
So it means this is not the first, but this country has been generating money. Thank you.
Everything is politicized.
Yes.
All right. Fine one.
So that is why Campaign for Good Governance is calling on the president that do not do the mistake of the past.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, now we are really trying to give a proper analysis about the 365 days of His Excellency retired Brigadier Julius Marabio and the Sierra Leone People's Party governance. Well, yes, we are doing our best. Though there are other areas that we're supposed to touch, we are only seeing benchmarks on education, free education, quality education, There are other areas that the government is supposed to tackle that have been left behind, and we are urging the government to look and stand firm on certain areas for you not to fall on many grounds instead of falling on one ground. The only ground that the government is standing on right now is education, free and quality education. For me, I do not believe that a quality product can be free. If it's going to be free, it's going to take a serious time. It's going to take more effort, more intelligence, and a lot of other things. So please, let's take care of the way we get our free and our quality education. Let's know exactly where we're going. If we are getting free education, right. If we are getting quality education, right. But I prefer the quality education than the free. The program is debuted live from Freetown Television Network on channel 35.
Free can be,
yes, I
free quality can be depending on the made and the specs.
I see.
So let's correct that. You can have free. You can have free depending on the specs.
Right. It's what we are seeing for the past year. We are analyzing. It's not.
I'm a governance person, so I can't sit here and say some of this.
You cannot determine the quality now, even until you are able to do some empirical research.
Yes, I only prefer the quality.
There's free education, which for me I would say yes.
Yes, free education.
But is it of quality until we do our research? Then we'll
exactly.
That's
so
why
it has to be scientific.
Yes, that's why
it has to be scientific.
Yes, you have to have scientific evidence.
I don't prefer the free side. I can pay for the quality side of it. That's why I prefer it. It's my opinion. I know you people will differ from that because of the civil society.
Well, quality is relative. Well, yes.
All right, it's been a very good one. Thank you very much, Kev Koba.
Yes,
and endeavor for at least coming together. Let's see how we can give some education to our people out there of the one here of His Excellency in governance. Well. The podium is yours. People out there, your voice, my voice, our voices is what the authority need to push this country further. So please, don't be afraid, don't be shy to say things that can push Mama Salon go before. I thank you all. I'm Claude Atero Robert, your host, and we continue with more important and interesting programs from Freetown Television Network. Till we meet again, let's have a pleasant good day where we are and try to see what we can do to help Sierra Leone develop one step further. I thank you all. Have a nice day.
VFX footage. VFX footage. VFX footage. VFX footage. VFX footage. VFX footage.
Today waka just begin for me to better tomorrow. For as long as we dey keep for work on we self, we go most bring out we best. We own best in how we can come near the people and things them wey matter to we. We dey look for experience where they connect we any side and they give we things altered.
Orange, the most reliable network na salon today. Don't put plenty money per network coverage, data service, and plenty other thing there. We don't come near you now. So you and you family them go enjoy the best telecom service at the highest standard. And beside you then a salon.
Orange.
no day. When you tell me I go join this local SIM couple, for me I download this thing and I won't be able to get access to my account. And I want to know so now we can.
Okay, so now this one is really simple. You don't go to the bank?
No.
Okay. Now go to the bank, let them update your account. Make sure say your telephone number they all know, because now the telephone number will make you get access to your local SIM couple.
Okay.
Where you dey go, make sure say you carry your bank ID card and also the mobile phone where you dey use, because now there we go download the app for you. Okay, so now you will not get account with me. What you need to wait for? Go na any of we branch and open account so you self go enjoy the local SIM couple.
Local Commercial Bank will make life better for we all.
VFX footage. VFX footage. VFX footage. VFX footage. VFX.
Yes, it's really interesting when you clock 100 days in governance. Well, first of all, in this other edition, because it's continuation, we are having the whole day today to talk about the 365 days of His Excellency retired Brigadier Julius Malabio. And don't forget that 1 year, 365 days, it's not an easy task. When you started the year, the 1st of January until the 30th of January, February, March, April, May, until the 31st of December. It's a very good period to achieve something in life, to achieve some goals in life. That's why today we are together to bring out some information, some analysis, some messages about how we want our country to be. It's 100 years of His Excellency retired Brigadier Julius Malabio and the Sierra Leone People's Party. Yes, 1 year, sorry, 365 days. And first of all, in this round of our discussion, let me say congratulations to His Excellency retired Brigadier Julius Malabio. You've clocked a year, and we are trying to analyze things that have been done, successes, and some of the disappointment of the people. As you heard earlier on in the program, the views, it's really what would I say? It's on a balance sheet. There are things that people are expected to be done, and there are things that are on the pipeline, and there are things that are yet, they are not even touched as yet. But we are going to look at the areas that we believe is going to make progress for Mama Salone. I've been joining the studio with a colleague, a brother and a friend, and it's no other person but Theophilus Benda. And of course, that name is a household name when you talk about the voices of the people in Mama Salone. We talk about Theophilus Benda, who is also a media practitioner, and he serves as a civil society activist, and in also different capacities. He is here today so we can look into the 1 year stay of His Excellency in governance, and of course the Sierra Leone People's Party, how they are doing things in every little corner inside Mama Salone. Theophilus, let me welcome you to the program, The Views. Thank you for coming, my dear brother.
Thank you very much, my bro. Respect.
Yeah, this is Rasta business,
Yeah,
if you're out there, it's just Rasta business, and now the Rastas are going to analyze the year of His Excellency. Yeah, so it's 1 year.
Yeah.
Now, how are we going to analyze these areas of the target point of His Excellency? One, he spoke about poverty, corruption, and indiscipline.
Yeah.
3 target points that he wanted to combat. These are the areas that he was fighting to combat before talking about the free and quality education, and if there is any comparison with that of the past years. But first of all, let's look at the areas that was the focus point of His Excellency when he came into is into power, into governance. He said we are going to fight poverty, corruption, and indiscipline.
Yeah.
And where do you think he has succeeded in these 3 areas, and what's left behind?
Okay. Thank you very much. And I want to say thanks to the management of FTN for having me, and it's my pleasure coming here for the very first time.
Yes,
and I must say that I'm very much impressed with the setup. I mean, and I'm wishing you guys the very best.
Thank you very much, Theophilus.
On the question, the president, retired Brigadier Julius Madabio, upon assuming the presidency of the Republic, made public pronouncements.
Yes.
And in those public pronouncements, a commitment he has said he will fulfill before the end of his tenure. And according to him, he is coming in, as a civilian. He has 3 wars in his hand: war against corruption, war against poverty, and war against indiscipline. So far, I can tell you that he has done quite a good job in the area of fighting corruption, and we've seen loopholes being blocked, and as a result of that, the government has been able to, for example, raise enough revenues for the payment of salaries without recourse to bank overdraft, which is a good one, because as a result of the fact that the past government was banking on too much bank overdraft, they left huge domestic debt, which is currently a serious burden on the current government. So we've seen the establishment of the commissions of inquiry, and so far we think so much is coming up from those inquiries. And imagine there had been no regime change, we would never have heard about those financial improprieties. But not only that, he has been able to give the Anti-Corruption Commission the free hand to operate. Now you see the Anti-Corruption Commission acting robustly in fighting corruption. Within 8 months, the ACC recouped over 12 billion loans deemed to have been corruptly acquired by certain government and public officials. So you see to it that the establishment of a single treasury account also helped greatly, because what was happening under the past regime was that monies were coming in under the name of the government, but the central government was not in control of those monies. The monies were scattered all over the place. You have more than 500 bank accounts, different bank accounts. So the government will not know exactly how to handle the situation. So now what they have done is to ensure that all government monies go through a single treasury account. Whether that was done in the best interest of the country or not is something we all wait to see, because what we are hearing out there is that, well, they blocked the game for everyone else, but then the game is opened for them.
Yes, Theophilus, I like that. You gave a brief analysis of the successes.
Yes.
Now, can we just differ a bit and look at how these successes came to light? Talking about the Anti-Corruption Commission with that 12 billion, but the 12 billion never went into the consolidated fund. It went directly to His Excellency. Now talking about, because we are expecting that huge amount of money to salvage certain situations, talking about our economy within the 1 year. That's what we are saying.
Well, I cannot sit here and say that that money was not paid into the consolidated revenue fund. I understand. It's only a symbolic presentation to the president, but indeed the money is always paid directly into the consolidated revenue fund. It's up to them. No, it's up to them to make it clear. Because at the end of the day, the audit service report will have to do auditing, and if it happens that the money was not paid into the consolidated revenue fund, then they will pick it up. But I'm very convinced that such a huge amount of money would have been paid, because it happened under the past regime. I mean, when Adi Macaulay was the head of the Anti-Corruption Commission, when even Fitzgerald Kamara Commission, they used to present checks to the sitting president then. And the understanding is that, I mean, once that is presented, it reflects into the consolidated revenue fund. I don't know whether it's a good pattern that the ACC has to be giving the check to the president, right? I'm really not sure about that.
Transparency.
Yeah, for the sake of transparency, it is part of their act that they should make presentation to the president. Now, on the other two wars, the war against poverty, the war against indiscipline, I would say that the president or the government is yet to, I mean, to take a positive move in tackling these ones. Poverty levels has increased, has risen up, and because of the high rate of poverty, it's all the pressure given to us, to all the problems affecting the country, and that it's just about giving them the opportunity. Expectations of the people are so high that by now they are expecting that the bread and butter issue should have been addressed.
Now, I'm looking at it in another way. It's just as if the government
talk about
education can help eradicate poverty, but yet still the people you want to educate, they are poor.
If the children are not well fed, if the children go to school hungry, and imagine the free education is supposed to be a whole package that is accompanied, that should be accompanied by school feeding. But so far we've not seen the school feeding, I mean, taken off. And for the pupils, even shoes, according to what was in their manifesto, we've not seen that. I mean, at play. But then, please, families can now send their, for instance, for Beke, because the government of Sierra Leone owes about 11 million United States dollars, monies that were supposed to have been spent or to have been paid to work over 10 years ago. So in other words, the government of Sierra Leone owes work for a backlog of 10 years, and so the new government is now under pressure to pay that money. And I am very much disappointed over the attitude of WAEC. How comes they sat down throughout these 10 years and failed to take the necessary actions to ensure that they get the money? So why is it only now?
Well, I don't think it's out of negligence.
I think
it's just that you want to believe that.
I think it is out of negligence.
I do believe that when some of these problems that we are facing, because they believe they are in governance, they can do anything. So you are caught between two sharp knives. If you refuse, it's going to be a problem. They will turn around and then implicate you in something that you never belong to. But what I'm afraid of is that if WAEC is shying away from conducting the examination, free and quality.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
So how is it about our free and quality?
So that's the point.
For the past 1 year.
So mind you, the head of WAEC of that backlog, and the president, Julius Manabio, did assure the WAEC boss that he will take the necessary actions to ensure that the money owed is paid, saying that they might not conduct the election, the examination, and if they don't, then it will be a very serious slap.
It's a burden
on
to the outside world. Yes, it can be recognized or accepted.
And over the years,
and we are talking about free and quality.
Yes, over the years, WAEC was made to print for the marking of those examination papers.
I do believe His Excellency is a man of words. He's a man of his words. He promised that he's going to help to salvage the situation, and that's one. Now the problem is still lying down. So we are expecting His Excellency to have known about that. Right, before even projecting into free and quality education, they should have known about that. That this is the problem with WAEC. So if you are talking about free and quality education, secondly, or in another note, you have to look at WAEC, what WAEC have to give, what they have to take for our children to go through a credible examination and then recognize one that you get
huge amounts.
I don't want to agree with
no, I'm just saying maybe.
Before coming into and the pronouncement that I want to give my children free and quality education, there must be a ground survey.
Yes, but
there must be some amount of visibility studies to know that these are some of the discrepancies within the educational sector, and I want to salvage the situation. So I believe the Excellency knew about